What is going on, guys? We got a new camera. So this is the GoPro. For those of you that don't know, which a lot of you guys that are new to the channel probably don't, is I actually started this YouTube channel on a GoPro Hero 4. Well, we came full circle and we have a new camera, which honestly, this thing is awesome. It gives a really nice field of view. I was wanting to get another point and shoot. The problem is with a lot of automotive work, especially with me not having lift and me doing a lot of stuff on the ground and dirt and all that kind of stuff, I just couldn't bring myself around to get another point and shoot because I've been through 3 of them already, and this thing checks all the boxes as far as I can see myself. It's an action camera, so I can do a lot of really cool things. Put it onto the hood, put it onto the doors, put it inside too. That's what I really want to do, is be able to do some inside shots. So we went ahead, we invested into another camera. For those of you that didn't know, this is the camera I've been using. It is an Picasso. I believe it's a Picasso like 4 or something like that. Really good camera for a low budget. I think it was like under $200. Now, because we have this, we're gonna be able to use this for all of the POV, and I can't wait to start getting into this.
Search everywhere.
What we're gonna do today is I already went ahead and took the transmission out. We're having a problem where the engine won't turn over. Okay, well, we have figured out what the problem was. I went ahead and took the clutch off. My initial idea was to use my clutch alignment tool right here to put this into the 6-puck clutch disc that I have and turn the car on, and it would not go in. And so it got me wondering why it didn't go in, and I think I figured out why all my problems have started. So if you look right here, on the inside right here, yeah, probably 1/4 of an inch of teeth are shaven off and missing. And if you look on this right here, this isn't fully flush, and the heat has been pushing a lot more on the top side and the bottom side, which means that, yep, it is bent. This thing was being pressed in to the pressure plate and the flywheel way too much, and so I can actually flex it back, but unfortunately this is just how it goes. Until right in there the spines are sheared, and because the spines are sheared, there's a lip in there, and the remnants of the sheared spline actually built up into the channel. So yeah, thankfully the actual pressure plate is not toast. I can still reuse that. For how long, I don't know, but yeah, we're gonna have to get another 6-puck, which thankfully I can get another 6-puck replacement. The one thing I was really noticing too, when I was taking the actual clutch off the flywheel, it was basically pushing back, and that the reason why that was happening is because this being bent, I don't know if you can see that, but this being bent basically put pressure on the pressure plate. How funny that is. As soon as I took it off, the whole thing just sprung off because of all that pressure that this was, that this friction disc was causing. So unfortunately, this thing's gonna go up on the wall. It's gonna be a reminder to me that you can miss the smallest things very easily. I think what happened was, now that I think about it, when I put the other transmission in, I think what I was doing is I didn't rotate the crank enough for the spline to actually match up to slide it in. And because of that, unfortunately, the spline just pushed way too far in and binded, and that's why we had no movement on the engine because there was too much pressure pushing on the backside of the engine. I would rather this plate be the case than the flywheel, because if the flywheel was damaged, that would then mean that, shoot, we'd be in bad shape. We'd be in really bad shape if that was the case, if the flywheel was bad, besides getting this thing dialed. But I want to have this thing ready to go, though. This next season for the track, once it gets nice and warm out, I want this car to be nice and ready to go, so I just turnkey, go, get some seat time, because that's what this car was meant to be for from the beginning, and that's my plan for it. So unfortunate, yes, that we found this, but I'm really glad that we did figure this out, because then now I have a game plan of what to do. And because of that, the garage is looking like a mess. No other way to put it. I will show you what mess I am talking about. All of my stuff is everywhere because we're just going to use the snap trick. The snap trick works for mostly everything. So, all right. So we also got this magical piece in. I'm going to clean the surface with some good old brake clean and gray Scotch-Brite. It will take all the dirt and all of that out, so it's going to look really, really cool and nice. So I will also have to grab, oh, here we go, this, which is going to be the clutch alignment tool, which we will need. And then we actually have a paint pen that I'm going to use to mark the bolts that are going to go in from the pressure plate to the flywheel. So we have everything we need for that. I actually realized that we have some new subscribers, which I am very excited for you guys to be a part of the channel. So if you guys are new to the channel and have no idea what is going on, what I have been working on for the past year and a half, I would advise you to go back to the beginning of the series to get caught up. Just a little reminder, we are working on this. This is a 1995 Lexus SC300. We have been working on a manual swap for a long time now. This manual swap is a 350Z transmission with an Autosport Engineering adapter plate, flywheel, super nice flywheel that I will also have to clean. Autosport Engineering shifter, which I haven't really been able to do too much driving with it, so I can't really say how I like it or not. So far it's been questionable, but we'll get into that a little bit later. One piece drive shaft from Adam Drive Shafts in Las Vegas, where I just moved from, and then the billet Guivo adapter on the rear diff that is Autosport Engineering as well. I have some big old brakes, Mark IV Super Twin Turbo brakes, which I absolutely love, and we're just getting this thing dialed in. If you guys haven't followed the journey, go ahead and go back in the videos and follow all of the video series up until now, so you guys will be able to see the transmission failure, the pilot bearing failure, the front cover gasket failure, all the failures that I've been through till this point. You guys can be able to see all of that and just kind of follow along to present day. Enough talking story, let's get into it. The bolts actually need to turn and tighten up to make it flat. So there's a little bit of a gap, it's like that much of a gap between the clutch and the flywheel. So the bolts actually press it down all the way. It works awesome once it's all said and done, but that's the only issue that we were running into. So because of that, because I was trying to tighten the bolts with it not being aligned, some of the threads on the adapter did get messed up. And so these right here are inserts that are 8.8 125 on the inside. The thing about doing taps, well, the hardest part about it is trying to find the outer threads, because you have to drill out the hole, which 13/64. So I'd use this to drill out the hole. Luckily, the adapter is aluminum, so it just drilled it out easy, super soft material, which is nice. And then I went ahead and tapped each one of the holes with this, and then I used some red Loctite to have it be in completely. So yeah, that was definitely important. And then I let it sit over the course of a couple days just so that the red Loctite would sit, because my fear is if I didn't let it sit, the bolts would start to pull the thread inserts out because the Loctite wouldn't set. So got all that done. So long story short, this is gonna go in today, and I'm hopefully going to button everything up by the end of this month, and then hopefully by next month everything will be good to go. As far as how true that might be, that, you know, it's gonna be done by next week, I am not entirely certain about that because of just the track record this thing has had. But if anything, it's taught me that you just got to keep your head down no matter how hard or challenging things might be with cars, because that's just the nature of cars, and trying to repair things, trying to make things, you know, work the way they need to work, or the way that you need them to work, so to speak. It's, you know, you're trying to put 3 different manufacturer parts together, as far as the engine, the adapter plate, the throw bearing, and the transmission. You're trying to do all of these things, but we got this far, so we can't stop now. We can't stop now. So with that all being said, I'm gonna switch over to the other camera, which the quality might change a little bit, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm definitely not trying to scratch this camera up, because this is my first video on this new GoPro, which I'm very excited for. We're gonna go ahead and Loctite everything up, and we're going to also use some ARP lube, which a lot of people are misunderstood about what this lube does. All you're trying to do with this is put a little dab of it underneath the washer, so that when you're torquing it down, the washer is able to spin instead of grabbing onto whatever surface it's mated against, and the friction basically makes it so that it will stop rotating. So that's what that assembly lube is supposed to be for. I didn't know that until now, which things you know, the things you find out, and the things you learn when you do these kind of swap processes. also, the other problem is that with this Autosport engineering kit that I have, the flywheel adapter is not spaced enough, which 350Z 299 flywheels have an indentation where the lineup dowels will come out a little bit farther than where the flywheel actually bolts to the crank, and you line those up and then you put the bolts in, which is super easy, super fun. This one doesn't have that, however, and so what you have to do in that case is you actually have to take these flywheel bolts, right? These ones are 16 millimeters long, which I had to figure out because I will tell you that in just a second. What to do is you have to put the plate up and then you have to start one bolt so that holds it, because the clutch kit will not fit on those dowels. They will fit once you pressure it down, but you have to actually pull it down to make it flush with the flywheel adapter with these bolts. The problem with that, or my problem with that anyways, was that when I was tightening it down, I had the position of the dowels wrong on the clutch plate, so that the dowels were actually pushing up against the clutch and it was pulling the threads out, which is why we had to get these repair kits. The issue that I ran into, however, was at the very end when I got everything in, there was one bolt hole, which was the last one I had to do. Obviously, that's usually how it goes. But the last one, the thread, when you put this flywheel bolt in, this ARP, you put it down and the entire thing would sink down to about right here. So that's about probably a 3/4, so 75% of the threads were being sunk in. So when we went to go turn it, it wouldn't grab the threads at all. And so I tried to re-tap the hole. It re-tapped, or it did re-thread the holes, but it wasn't, the threads weren't deep enough. So I actually had to, thankfully at my job, we have ARP bolts. So this one is the same thread pitch, but it is a 20 millimeter. This had just enough threads to grab onto the back end of the threads. It's a really good alternate way to be able to not have to re-thread the hole if you don't want to re-tap it. And I wanted to keep using ARP as well. I could have just opened the hole larger and then tapped it with like an M10, but I did not want to do all of them again. ARP chromoly is super nice when it comes to holding things and just having a lot of tensile strength, which that's why a lot of head bolts, flywheel bolts, pressure plate bolts, those all have torque specs, and so you want to make sure that they're not gonna they're gonna stretch because we're torquing them down, but they're not going to fatigue after a while, and they're not going to pull, if that makes sense. Like when you stretch them, they're not going to pull. Which found one of the my old bolts that stretched a little too much. So if you see right there, yeah, those threads right there are super weak, and yeah, this bolt is very, very close to actually twisting off and breaking the head off the bolt. So yeah, definitely not going to use this for anything, but that's what they look like if you guys don't know. So all right, I'm way too excited about this not to share it with you guys. So here's what we have just been doing for the last hour. Okay, so transmission is fully in. It's all the way flush, and it's never been that flush before. So what I ended up having to do inside here, which hopefully you guys can see. Okay, so there's a spring right there. Right there, that's the throwout bearing. So it is fully depressed right now because the transmission bell housing and the crank is lined up perfectly. But what was happening, clutch line and bleeder come off of, is that the spring wasn't depressed all the way, and it was making it so that that gap was happening. So I went ahead and I put some vices on my bleeder, popped the cap off the clutch master, and I started pumping all the fluid out. And with that being done, that made it so that there was no pressure in the line. Transmission is in, and that was really efficient. I do have to bleed the line again. However, I will show you guys probably in the next video when I do the bleeding process. There is a bleeding process on this that requires you to adjust the push rod in the clutch pedal that goes into the master cylinder. All right guys, so if you can hear what I'm hearing, then well, we got it running, guys. This thing is on. It's been so long since I've seen this thing actually running. Just warming it up right now, trying to get it to idle, because it's been a long time since this thing ran. So I'm just letting it idle right now. It does not like the cold at all. It's really not liking it. So it feels amazing to have this car running again. We still have a couple of things to dial up. I have to make sure the transmission is gonna go into each gear. I have no complaints at all. It's running super smoothly so far. This project definitely took a lot of motivation now, just because, you know, having to get another transmission and not knowing what happened with the other transmission that I still have, that I'm still working on, and, you know, a bunch of other stuff. This exhaust is super quiet, which I like, which actually when I went from an automatic to a manual transmission, the sound got different. So it's more of a lower sound, which is nice. I still have to put the interior back together. There's not really any interior in, which we will put together soon enough. I want to get a volt gauge, like a battery volt gauge, because I can't see the battery volts on my cluster, and I definitely want to see what charge my battery's at, just in case something does happen. I don't think it will, but I want to do that. With these throw bearings, the throw bearings that you use from the Camaros or the Pontiac GTOs, you have to find the sweet spot, if that makes sense, on the throw out. And if it's too much, it'll actually blow the rear seal, which that was the problem I was having. It was blowing the rear seal every single time. But now I've learned that I have to find that throw. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to edit here, and hope you guys all enjoy the video. If you guys are new to the channel, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Ohana. Super stoked for you guys to be here on the journey that we have with all of the cars and the property that we moved up to make the dream still livable and still have a chance of being the dream into reality. So that being said, guys, you guys have a good day, good night, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And always remember, guys, always stay positive and stay true to who you are. Shoots!